Hello and welcome back to Alchemy with Sheeana Leigh. And I'm really going to be diving deep and raw today into my own personal story of alchemy. This is like my origin story and more specifically, why I do what I do. This is coming at a really strange time. I know we've been on this journey for a little while now, and it's time. It's time to share my passion, my drive, my why, because it is the fire in my bones that really allows me to show up constantly, transparently, vulnerably, and bear it all for everyone to witness. And this came at last week. I did a podcast with Angela over at Intimacy. I think it's called Soma Shift, is what she is known as on Instagram. And it's Everyday Intimacy is the podcast. And one of the questions that she asked me was profound. Like, why do I do what I do? What was the moment that put me on this path and direction? And I've been ruminating around on it since then because, I shared about what cracked me open was heartbreak and grief and also trauma, obviously. And I wouldn't be talking and teaching about trauma if it wasn't from a deeply personal, embodied space. And yeah, I very much skimmed the surface and didn't go too deep. So today you're going to be coming on a ride about my origin story, my life story, because my whole life has been an initiation into alchemy and transmuting my own mark and my deepest pains into my gifts and my medicine for the world. So I'm going to share all about that today, and I'm going to prelude this episode and give it like a little bit of a trigger warning. If you are sensitive in the body and hearing about violations, abuse, and trauma, and these sort of more ickier parts of humanness and life, then please hold yourself and your body with tenderness and care, and make sure you nourish yourself afterwards, because I like to share pretty openly about, every sort of detail of my experiences that led me to this point. And I don't share a lot of things to make myself a victim, or this is not a pain and wounding story. This is like a reclamation arc story. This is how I became my own savior. This is how I pulled myself out of experiences that really broke me down as a human, as a woman, in my spirit, body, and soul. Because I have known numbness and I have known pain deeply, personally. So let us begin on why I do what I do and why I'm so passionate about what I do. What led me here, I believe that this calling was given to me and not per se something that I sought out. It's like one of the most common questions I get asked. How did you get into that? That's a very unusual career path or calling. Like, what made you become a sex coach, sex therapist, somatic practitioner, feminine liberation kind of storyteller? And it's deeply personal to me. Like I said, my whole life has been training me for this and inviting me into this again and again. So I'm going to really steep in the parts today that are deeply resonant with why I'm so passionate about empowering women, liberating women, setting them free from the shackles of society and trauma and pain and wounding. So let us begin. I was raised very painfully. My mother, I was a single income, single parent family. I have 3 siblings, an older brother, 2 younger sisters, and my mom was a single parent. And so that began my deep passion for women and for single mothers and motherhood and birth. I am a very sensitive soul as it is. And I remember being quite young and seeing the isolation, suffocation, the pain that was kind of handed down to us through our lineage of, struggle, survive. And my mum did the best that she could for those years. But this is where I really started to grasp deep feminine pain. So yeah, we struggled a lot. We were very low income, as you could imagine, single mom with 4 children, 4 rat bags, very low income, very much survival, very much moving around a lot throughout our childhoods, every 6 months moving to a new house. I remember feeling deeply unstable and deeply unsafe in my younger years. And I've done a lot of work around this, but this was my first inkling embedded into my body of there has to be more for women. Why are we suffering? Why, there was no support for my mother. There was no help. She didn't get anything off the father of us kids. She didn't get maintenance. She didn't get help. She didn't get handouts. I remember her working really hard at trying to get us a beautiful house and really going above and beyond, working, multiple jobs, night jobs, pub jobs, and us babysitting. And it was rough. It was very, very rough childhood. And yeah, there was times we didn't really have food and we had to make do and really set the tone for what am I witnessing in the world. And our house got repossessed from us. So we actually got locked out of our house and our belongings were inside and we were in survival. So deep, deep survival was part of my imprinting. And yeah, I really remember having such a fear of becoming a mother or being a woman in this world and in society, and the way it just never made sense to me looking around and seeing women struggle and, mothers being such a great blessing to the world, being so hard in the world. My mom became very hardened. We had a very tumultuous relationship, me and her personally. And it was because of a lot of my own personal traumas. So that was one of the things that really sparked my curiousness and my feminine blood into really uncovering the deception in the world, what we see, how we're treating our mothers and our women. So that was definitely one of the catalysts for my journey. She raised me very independent, very strong, very hardened around men for starters. You don't need a man. My mom was doing it all herself. This was deeply imprinted into me. And yeah, I love my mom so much, but we did have a very tumultuous relationship, very, very physical. And I remember having my stepdad at one time. He was very abusive to me and my brother. So a lot of my younger family years was marked by abuse, survival, trauma. I actually, since I've been speaking to Angela from the podcast, I actually sat with a lot of these memories and stories of this masculine imprinting and really remembering how volatile our stepdad was at a time and how he used to wash our mouth out with chili from the neighbors from the neighbor's yard, wash it out with soap and just belt us, just absolutely belt us. And it was very a hard time. This at a very young age led me to disordered eating. I remember in, grade 1 and grade 2 being bullied for my body and trying to not eat, and got pretty sick. And yeah, this is why I am really passionate about coming home to the body, falling in love with your body, because I have known that sort of fragmented essence of relating to your body on so many levels and layers. And so the deepest thing and the deepest wounding that really ripped out my heart, body, and soul as a child was I was molested by my uncle. And I speak about this very openly. I don't carry any shame around this anymore. At the time, I was just a little child, just a beautiful little babe. And I really feel like this tore out my innocence and my essence and who I was as a young girl beyond what I can even imagine. I remember looking at the world with such innocence and play and wonder and magic. And when this event happened and these events happened, it really ruptured me in a way that I wasn't ready for. I believe that I kind of left my body in a way because my body was not a safe space. I really internalized this and created a lot of suffering, but in and around my world and my life, like this really set me up for the cycle of abuse and violation and repeated sort of uh, repeated rapes and repeated cycles of people using my body and me sort of disassociating and freezing for a very long time. A very long time, you know. It was horrible. It was horrific. And I remember in my later teenage years when I was trying to really work through this wounding, obviously, I did turn to a lot of substance abuse, uh, drugs, and alcohol beyond what I could even begin to talk about here. And I remember, really reflecting and writing in my journals. I used to keep this massive journal, uh, like how deeply that impacted me as a woman, how deeply that impacted my body and my psyche and the world around me. Because, of course, I never dealt with it at the time. It was kind of an experience when I finally came clean to my mom about what had happened and how it happened. Uh, I was so numb and disassociated then as a protection mechanism. And I remember, my mom gave me the option of what I wanted to do about it. And at that time, I was so young. I was so terrified of what was going to happen to my family. And I took on this huge responsibility as a child of, I was so petrified that, who was going to harm me, my family, hurt my family, that I didn't want to do anything about it. And so we just packed up and left. We packed up and left, moved to a different town, and never spoke of it again. Never spoke of it again. And I repressed it. I repressed it and shoved it right down in my body and pretended like it didn't happen, but it deeply affected me. I remember when we moved to the new town, I was so terrified of people because, as you can imagine, when something like this happens and you start to see the world through a different lens, I started to see the darkness and the shadow and the way people would use you and hurt you and abuse you, people that you love. Like, it really changed me psychologically and changed the way I viewed my body. Heavily disassociated, heavily got extreme body dysmorphia and the visceral feeling of disgust within my body. And of course, I rebelled. I rebelled like a angry little girl, woman would do. I had a lot of rage. I had a lot of unfelt and unprocessed pain. I had, this view on the world that people were going to use me and abuse me and hurt me. And that is exactly what I called in time and time again with, my mom's friends' sons, with, relatives, with, people, men, boys. Like this is the imprinting. And, I really reflect back on this a lot about how we deal with emotions and trauma and pain, and how we can only give what we've really embodied and what we know, and we're all just trying to do the best we can. And my mother was raised in that generation, right? We didn't talk about anything, we shoved it all down, we just moved on, we repress. And maybe you can relate, maybe your parents are of that generation too, where they didn't really deal with things, they didn't speak of things, they just closed it all down and moved on. And I really reflect back on how different my life would be if I had the tools and the ability to move through that process in such a different way, where I was able to talk and share and communicate and feel the sensations in my body and move with it or integrate it more as beautifully as you can for that type of experience. How different my story would be, how different I would show up, how different I would feel about my body. The fact that I closed it down, repressed it, and didn't speak of it really contorted it in my body in such a way that I was in deep pain, not realizing I was in deep pain, and then inflicting it on myself time and time again, and also on others around me. I would just spit pain and rage out and not really sure where it was coming from. And to counteract that, I would drink a lot and do drugs and try and numb it out. And this is why I am deeply passionate about this. Like, these were my initiations into this path. I really sit with this a lot. And for a long, long time, I sat with, why would this happen to me? Like, why would this happen to me as a young girl, as a young, innocent girl? Why would such deep pain and trauma and abuse be inflicted on me? And I don't believe a lot of the spiritual jargon of everything's your mirror and you attract that, and like blame the victim. But I really do sit with this medicine now and really honor this huge moment and rupture in my life as my greatest gift and blessing. Like, that moment in time, as fucked and as horrible as it was, and the years after, they were my initiations, and they, like, my greatest grief points and my greatest trauma points were my greatest calling in medicine, because it formed the foundation of my passion and desire to not have this cycle repeated again, to not have abuse to ourselves and to our next generation, to our children, because I see it again and again, how contorted it is and how we pass it down to our children. And it's, I don't have children, but the legacy I want to leave is not one woman ever going through such physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and sexual abuse ever again. Like, if I could eradicate this from the entire world, I absolutely would. And that is my drive, and that is my why. And I truly believe it starts from within us. How we view ourselves, how we see ourselves, our belief systems, our worth, our sense of belonging and our power and our energy, really bringing it all back home into yourself and into your body, because I could see the writing on the wall, thinking it's okay to be violated physically, emotionally, mentally by a stepdad, and then being vulnerable and susceptible to that sort of experience within other males. Like the path is so clear to me. And then that was my foundation. I called in my first ever boyfriend when I was 16, was deeply, deeply abusive. I still, to this day, when I have nightmares, you can guarantee that he is in it. I really was out of my depth. I didn't have a view of what a healthy relationship was. Not only that, like I didn't see healthy, beautiful partnerships, relationships, marriages around me, and as you can imagine, being in the environments that I was in, a lot of people came from broken homes, tumultuous homes, toxic homes, and we all had a very similar resonance and story. And all I knew from that age is I do not want to be like these people I'm seeing. I do not want to be in a relationship that is dead and harmful and painful and toxic. And I do not want to be a single mom struggling to survive and passing that down to my children. I really knew from a very young age how rebellious I was. And my mum's quite a rebel too, and very, forges her own path. And I love that about her. And that's where I get this from. I'm like very systems and structures, but I do understand how they help us. But nonetheless, I really could see these systems. I wasn't very good at school. I got expelled from 3 schools. I was an absolute menace. The woman you see here today talking about these things and sharing from this place of embodied wisdom and is here, can only exist and be here today because oh man, did I make some mistakes. Oh man, did I really move through so many failures and so many rejections and pains and wounding. Like, oh, if I could just give you, I used to always say, I wish I could write a book about my life because it is absolutely wild to me how I'm still alive, still present. And this is what I get to do. Like, this is what I get to share. And it's not just like this, oh yeah, this is a cool job. Like I'm like, this is my passion. This is my juice. This is my fuel. This is my deepest, fuel to bring forth and to breathe into this life. You can absolutely turn your muck into medicine. You can absolutely turn your pain into power. It's possible. And I know it's possible, and I know it's true, and I know it's absolutely there for us to touch and taste and call in because I have lived it. I have lived it. I have breathed it. I have rolled around in it. And I'm here. I am a testament to this work, to somatic therapy, to therapies, to really excavating your deep inner landscape and figuring out what makes you tick, what makes you trigger, and pulling it out and laying it on display and releasing the shame that is hardening your cells so that you can truly see it and look at it with eyes of wonder again, with curiousness, and rebirth yourself, like midwife your soul through the pits of hell and come out the other side, the you and the being and the essence of what you are here for, of who you are truly. I could talk about this all day, because when I tell you the little rat that that I was, and don't get me wrong, I went through moments and times where I completely disowned and rejected those parts of myself. You know, I, as I said, was very angry, expelled from schools, getting into fights, like physical punch up fights, being abused, getting taken away by foster cares, and getting, the child protection services meetings into my family and home life. I have been fired from nearly every job I have worked at. And I have to laugh because it's such a far cry from who I am as a woman now, and who I am and what I share. And I laugh so deeply because you only see a snippet of who I am, and like my depth and my creative juices on Instagram or social media, and you see this presentable, like curated person, and there's this whole other woman and human being behind that sort of screen that you just could never even grasp. And yeah, I went on a path of destruction, of death destruction. As a matter of fact, I wanted to die. I tried to commit suicide a few times, and OD, and throw myself in front of oncoming traffic, and really, really dangerous stuff. I OD'd. I went through this time, and don't get me wrong, at the start of this experience, it was escapism. I didn't really know what it was. It was escapism. It was fun. I was just playing. I was dabbling. And then it became a crutch, and definitely something that I used to numb the pain. I didn't know what therapy was. I didn't know what talking about it was. And I shut these parts and pieces off, down deep, dark below. And yeah, that served me for a little bit, until I was moving through trying to get sober. I moved cities, I moved towns. I started leaving home when I was 13. And from that age, I was definitely already using substances. And I look at 13-year-olds now, and I'm like, oh my God, what was I? Who was I? I don't even know. I couldn't even imagine someone so young and so just childlike and beautiful using substances to cope with just not feeling okay in your body, just having no sense of self or who you were in this world, and constantly bracing for impact, constantly. So yeah, my first, I'm probably trailing a bit, but I want you to grasp like how deeply in the muck I was, and how I pulled myself out. So this abusive relationship I had with my first so-called love, we were in and out of it for 10 years, and it was very physically, mentally, emotionally abusive, to the point where I probably won't go into details here. And I was trauma bonded, looped, connected, guilt tripped, gaslit, manipulated into thinking I was in love, and this cycle of abuse that took me a long time to move out of. At the time, yeah, I didn't really care if I lived and died at some points. I I willingly did not see really past my 25th birthday. And I really thought that I was going to die super young. Didn't think I was going to be here. And yeah, moved in and out of, moving around, gypsying around, really just trying to find myself, moving in and out of drug fueled and alcohol fueled states and substance abuse, and tried to get clean on and off. And created a bit of sort of psychosis at some points, I swear. But always there, I had this deep inner pulse in my being, this depth and this sensitivity and this beautiful, vulnerable, raw essence of myself that I was protecting a lot. And I remember being very creative and writing in journals and trying to dissect my mind and what was going on, and uncovering and unveiling all of these traumatic events that I would kind of just pretend didn't exist. And I remember, around the age of 22, 23, I had a relationship with a man. I could see the types I was inviting into my relationships and the intimacy I was. They were just very not in alignment relationships. I wasn't great in relationships, as you can imagine. Intimacy scared the hell out of me. I kind of moved through disorganized attachment, kind of anxious and avoidant, and then all flip-flopping all over the place. And I couldn't grasp it. I couldn't understand why I had this deep yearning and craving for love and connection and relationships, but I was absolutely petrified to my bones about it and for it. So I had this heartbreak at the age of, I think I might have been 23. And for some reason, at that time, I've always been a little bit spiritual. Even through all this period, this time, I was searching, seeking. I've always been a quite visual person and can pick up things. I actually truly believe that when you've had experienced such great trauma and rupture and you disassociate from your body a fair bit and numb out, it opens you up to other worlds. The veil is thin. You're kind of disassociating, disconnected out of your body. You kind of open yourself up to other things. So I'm really passionate about understanding that. And I truly believe that this is like the element that is missing in a lot of, science/spirituality realms. A lot of people go down the psychosomatic therapy, mental, logical science aspect, and there's a piece missing. And a lot of people go through the spiritual woo-woo, everything is this kind of element of spiritualism and disassociate from the body and the logic. And there's definitely a gap between these two. I feel like they're both two sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the other. And this is the missing link between trauma and understanding the body and soma and psyche, the spirit, like it's all wholeness. It's all a whole jigsaw puzzle. And this is why I love what I do, because I believe that I grasp these threads, these common threads of spirit and science and logic and reason and energy, and weave them all together because I have lived it and breathed it. So quite spiritual, quite like really in touch with sort of energy. And again, probably using that as an escapism to not feel the body, trying to transcend it, right? I've used all different types of escapes to get out of feeling my fucking body. And so when I went through a heartbreak, the heartbreak did something to my body. It cracked me open viscerally. I believe when you have spent your lifetime disassociating from your body, disassociating from your feelings, your sensations, and something so visceral and raw in your body cracks, and it feels impactful in a way that you can't really say no to. So when I went through this heartbreak, I was like, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? I went on this quest to find myself. I was, in this space of, I had this abusive on off again relationship for 10 years, deeply traumatic. And I was like, what in me is calling this in? What in me? I think I read a book, You Can Heal Your Life, or something along the lines of that. I was like, what in me is attracting this? What in me is recreating these dynamics where I'm giving and pouring from an open heart, so I thought, and it's just bleeding all over the floor because these men are not reciprocating it. Or, this man at the time basically told me that he never, like, I was a good pretend girlfriend or something, and actually picked me apart as we broke up, even though we broke up from nothing of great remembrance, but picked apart my entire body, who I was as a person, my traits, how everything. And I was like, wow, this man really detests me or does not like me, to be crushing me into the ground as we're separating. So, of course, I wanted to dissect it. I wanted to understand. I wanted to, what in me is creating this? How is my body not picking up the subtle nuances between myself and another? Of course, it was so ruptured. And I was like, I am going to go on a journey. I'm going to heal myself. Stuff this, stuff men. I have not been feeling my body at all. I don't even know who I am. I must be enmeshing in these dynamics. And I packed up, bought a one-way ticket overseas, and started my delving journey. I delved into everything. I was a sponge. I moved into Tantra. I went vegan. I went and did yoga teacher trainings. I learned so much about the spiritual world and chakra systems and meridians, and I did all the things. I sobered up. I went heaps into spiritualism and ate that shit up. I was like, this is the path. This is my calling. This is who I am. And really, it was the heaviness and the burden of carrying my own pain and my own shit and my own relationship dynamics for so long. And I was just trying to understand myself. What was it about my childhood, my family, my mom, our relationship? And oof, you name it, I did it. I did Reiki. I did satium. I did a shamanic mentorship for years. And oh, when I tell you, I tasted a lot of different modalities, lots of different fields, lots of tools. I really wanted to grasp and heal myself. I was like, that's it. I'm not calling in any other man at all. Not that I ever was looking for men. I very much decentralized men a long time ago. Thanks, Mum. And also because of my background and my childhood. But I was like, I am not calling in this. I declared it so, and I made it so with the actions and what I did. Traveled the world and, came back to Australia, a new woman, really deeply connected to my spiritual side, I guess. And still there was a missing piece, right? There was still a missing piece, but we'll get into that. Another initiation came where I came back and I became pregnant, and this pregnancy cracked me open deeper than I've ever gone before. As I said, you don't feel nothing cracks open like the womb space, for starters, and nothing cracks you open into your body than this spark of creation in your womb. And this was the calling home to my body. I didn't understand it at the time. And as a matter of fact, at that time, when I found out I have also found out at the same time, double whammy, that I had a liver disease. And again, I started using this as a catalyst, as a portal. Everything that I've been through has coming together. It's a portal. My liver was holding rage and anger, and of course I moved through a liver disease. And because of this, I, again, sober, moving into how do I heal myself? How do I heal my liver? How do I regenerate it? How, as a 25-year-old, have I gotten into a space where I have a liver disease and am pregnant and don't know what to do? The medical industry strongly told me that I should, I basically got coerced a fair bit into terminating the pregnancy because they wanted me on a wait list to heal my liver. And it was the most traumatic time of my life, because this is the moment where I realized, after having a fear of being a mum, it was one of my deepest yearnings and calling. And I was so petrified because I know the power and the magnitude of becoming a mother. And it broke my heart. It absolutely broke my heart to move through that space and to, let go of that and move through an abortion. And I could never, ever see myself doing that in my entire life. I carried a lot of medical wounding and trauma around this. And again, another initiation and why I'm so passionate about birth and, outside of the systems. And, it's all when you see everything laid out and you reflect on my life, I can see how every single thing was an initiation to get me to this point. Every little inkling was an initiation to my calling, helping, the reclamation of women, the reclamation of feminine, of sacredness, of soul, of the body, because absolutely everything in my life has tried to rip me away from that and create such ruptures and impacts, and I have turned it into honey. So that experience in and of itself was brutal, and again kept me on the path. I moved through going through the, uh, the therapy, the combat treatment for liver disease, and lost my hair, got sick, all of these things. And I was young. I was only 25. It was such a wake up call. And I did a total 180 on my life, because at the time I was still, sometimes dabbling, sometimes having fun. And I decided no more. I was going to settle down around this time. Me and Steve, which you've seen and heard on the podcast as well, connected. We delved deep, and he was definitely a calling from another kind. He was this safe space for me to really dive into healing in relationship, understanding my wounds, excavating why I was deeply petrified of intimacy. And he was a very healing, grounding, beautiful force within my life. He helped me rewire my imprint around men. And again, I just laid everything bare on the table with him. I was like, this is what I'm going through. This is what I'm like. I will want to get close to you, but I will fucking push you away because of this, this, this. And he just opened his arms to me and said, I'm up for that challenge. I will take it on. And to this day, this is why truth to me is the highest energetic force that we are working with. Higher than love, truth is my number one, because truth will set you free. Truth and the essence of truth is the most liberating force. If I was to sit with that, my whole life would have been different. Speaking your truth, they talk about this a lot, but speaking unlocks truth, feeling truth in your body and your bones, and sitting with truth, as uncomfortable as it may be, is the most freeing experience ever. And it is the only place where freedom exists. And I tell you what, this is why our relationship worked, because we were very transparent. We were very truthful. And I lay my story out like quite bare for the world to see. And the reason why I do this, I share snippets because it's one of my most asked questions. What got you into this? How did you do this? And honestly, like I don't carry any shame or any contraction around my story. It is a human story that a lot of people can resonate with or grasp. the feeling of disgust in the body, the feeling of disassociation, numbness, disconnection, the feeling of rupture without being able to feel whole. These are all very common human experiences. And although my life has been quite a traumatic, painful experience to move through, it has been my greatest blessing and gift time and time again. Like my story, I don't have any attachment to. I don't have any victim mindset around it. Don't get me wrong, like no young girl should be experiencing that, but that is my fuel and my fire to do this work. No woman should move through that. No child should have to experience that for them to just know their worthiness and their wholeness. And, no one should have that innocence stripped bare of them at such a young age. Like I wouldn't wish that on any person ever. But that is the juice. That is why I'm here. That is why I will get up and lay myself and my story bare and raw for the world to see, and not fear judgment, not fear persecution. We have such power in our voices, but actually so you can feel the sense of resonance in your bones that you are not alone. I hope and wish and pray that like my story is an inspiration. Well, look, if this woman can move through this, we all can. We all, like, it's a hope, a thread of hope in a world that is actually falling apart, right? Like we have to take responsibility for our pain and our wounds and our trauma, and not just ours. Like it can feel like a burden sometimes. It can feel rough. Don't get me wrong. Like, oh God, am I over and sick and tired of healing and moving through layers of conditioning because, I've been thickened and hardened by it. But we can make it as easeful as possible. We can hold each other's hands and journey this together. Like I reflect on this and I just think like, wow, like there's been certain moments in my life and times where I've really reflected and gone, I did it. Like I made it. Oh, I'm going to cry. And that, coming from where I've come from and being able to sit here today and help mothers become, their most beautiful, radiant, alive, magnetic essence of a mother, to fill themselves up and pass that down to the next generation of women, to teach and guide their sons, to initiate their daughters and their sons on a deeper level and layer, so they're not feeling so alone and ostracized and desensitized to the world around them. I just think that is my why. And so I am not a mother at this point in time. I work with a lot of mothers though. I actually call in a lot of mothers because I love mothers. I am in such awe and honor and reverence for mothers and just what they hold and what they move through. And society and the way we live in society sucks. It does not support mothers. It isolates them and leaves them alone and feeling sad to, I've witnessed my sister move through postnatal depression. I have witnessed my friends, my nearest and dearest, not one of them have not been violated, abused, touched, experienced medical trauma from birth. Like it just, even though this is my personal experience and my life and what has catapulted me into this initiation and this calling and my work, this is not a off the cuff random experience for women. This is the normal. This is what I see around me. I do not know women who have not been in abusive relationships and dynamics. I do not know women that haven't felt numb and desensitized and traumatized through the hospital, through birth. I do not know women that have said yes when they really meant no, because they were constantly being harassed to open up and have sex with them. I do not know anyone that has not had their boundaries, or any woman that has not had their boundaries and boundaries and body violated, abused, manipulated, and contorted. I do not know any woman that is not sitting in people pleasing and not bending over backwards out of fear that they won't be loved. And it's like, this needs to stop. This comes from a deeply personal experience, but also what I see around me. I see mothers trying their hardest and not getting any help. I see mothers not knowing how to share, and the shame and abuse and the cycle of manipulation and contortion breeds in the darkness. It breeds in it. This keeps moving through our whole entire world because we're all afraid to speak of it. Oh, it's so taboo, so let's squash it down so it actually into the underbelly. And while it's in the underbelly, it's just gestating and multiplying and pumping out. It's like, bring it out to the light of day. Bring it out to the light. Talk about it. Share the story. It loves silence. It breeds in silence. It's like, I see it all the time. Women who do not know they're in abusive or toxic dynamics, they think it's just the normal because they don't talk about it and they don't share, hey, I'm moving through this experience with my partner. I was asleep and they used my body while I was asleep. I woke up to it. I just thought that was normal. I just thought that that's what husbands and wives do. No, not unless we're talking about CNC and it is consensual non-consent. And then they're holding it and it's breeding this. They're not speaking on it. They're suffocating it down, just as I did. And it is mutating inside them. And we pass this down. We pass this on to the next lineage. And so this is my why. And sometimes it's so hard to grasp the enormity of what I desire and what the hunger in my flesh to really burn everything down, because I look around and I see the dark. I look around and I see the deception and the contortion and the manipulation. And, don't get me wrong, I was wading around in this sort of bullshit and my own bullshit for a really long time. And now when you start to see it, you can't unsee it. And when you see it, it is your duty to speak up, to share, there's power in the story. I say it all the time. Unlock your throat, unclench your jaw, open your mouth. It's connected to your pussy, and speak it into the ether, because your story could touch another. It can inspire another. It can spark a embodied essence within them that's like gonna stand up and speak and say no more. And that is my deepest desire. It is a world free of abuse, a world free of rape, molestation, these deeper, darker, insidious sexual energy contortion elements. And with birth, it's so deeply seated and soaked. And I sit here sometimes and I just am gobsmacked by how we can think this is normal. It's never seemed normal to me. It will never seem normal to me. And I just want us to return to our natural organic way of being. And that is, we have to come in. We have to internally do, especially, I speak from personal experience. This was the dynamic that I called forth in my entire life until I started knocking myself on the head and said, okay, no more. What am I going to do about it? I went down the path of radical reclamation and radical self-adoration, or wanting to grasp the essence of myself that was like untainted by this world. And I got there. I did so many womb temples, trainings, yoni de-armorings, reflexology. I got into my body. I came all the way in, where I was orgasming and crying for I don't know how many years, releasing so much pain and woundings and trauma. And it's possible. It's absolutely possible. So even though this path started off as I wanted to help heal myself, I wanted to change the narrative, I wanted to, create a different world for myself, it became a passion and a fire in my belly for the world. And I remember when I think it was 2019, and I was first having this experience, I was like in a meditation and I was deep in this experience. And I don't know what you would call it, like oneness, connecting with God, how the transcendent mystical experience of the creator. I don't know. But I literally was sitting there and was told that this is what you have to do. This is what you have to do. And I was on a tantric yoga retreat teacher space, and it was all about self-healing, coming home to the body, and that really cracked me open to my body on a really powerful level, understanding the consciousness of my own body and the intricacies, and how they all have their own energies and ecosystems, and they hum and vibrate together. Not the point of the story, I'm rambling a bit, but I remember this word, this is what you have to do. This is what you're going to do. You're going to move into womb work, healing. But I couldn't grasp it all. I came out of this meditation bawling my eyes out, not wanting to return, and then feeling like I actually felt the overwhelming weight of like my so-called calling. I was like, who the fuck am I? I don't have any, I can't do this. What? I don't have the wisdom. I don't have the knowledge. I'm not good enough. I'm broken. When I tell you the woundings that came up straight away as soon as it said, you're going to help women, you're going to help them connect to their bodies, their womb. And, I was like, no, I reject you. I did not think I had it. I was like, who am I? And like, I look back on that moment now and I'm like, of course, my whole life has initiated me into this realm. It has not been easy breezy. My whole life has been dedicated to women, to my friends, to my sisters, to womb work, to the deeper underbelly, undertone currents, not this light and fluff, have an orgasm and manifest your dream life. Like, no, my life has been the deeper initiation into the dark waters of over-sexualization and hypersexualization and repressed kinks and desires and just insidious type of ick. Which I can laugh about. Because, of course I want to be this light and fluffy fairy. And that is a part of me, absolutely. There have to be if you're in this realm, absolutely. But when I look at it, I just laugh because, I did not think I was good enough. I did not think I was suitable enough. I didn't have wisdom, but my life is my wisdom. My walking this path is the transmission, is the essence of, hey, you can pull yourself out of this ashy residue that you have been holding yourself in and shackled into. And it is the biggest passion in my heart. Oh, it is. Oh my God, it is. And I have absolutely loved sharing this episode with you today. I have absolutely loved sitting here and feeling the excitement and the initiation and the spark of like my calling. I went down that experience, and yeah, I remember at the time I was working at Bunnings. I think I was like an activities organizer for Bunnings. And again, one of those moments I came back, I was like, something just happened, synchronicity lined up, and I studied sex, love, and relationship coaching, and then moved into, the deeper elements of, I did somatic therapy, I did conscious love and relating. When I tell you, and it served me and my relationship. And originally I just thought I was getting into it, like I downplayed it, right? I was like, oh, I'm just doing this for me. It's going to be really good for my relationship, my marriage, for when I have children. This is going to be it. Lo and behold, the children did not come. And it was in service to the women around me, in service to the world. I realized from that moment, from my deep studies, I think in 2020, it's been effortless. And I say that so humbly because I really believe that I opened up the doors. I started sharing raw and transparently about my life, what I've been through, and the deeper embodiment of my work and teachings have been my personal transmission in my life. And something just clicks for people. Some people just feel the energy buzzing with me, or, read my words and reach out. I have, in this whole 5 years of my work, I magnetize clients to me. I don't even know where they come from sometimes. Actually, I'm about to jump on a call with the one at the moment who just asked for a sign, read my website, felt the energy, reached out. We're jumping on a call, and I don't know how they find me. And I love that for me. And I don't care if I have to be like this walking like inspiration poster board of like, this is what I've been through. Like you can do it too. And I don't believe that I'm any more, powerful or any more knowledgeable in this work than a lot of people, because I sit with the most incredible women and the incredible people like in relationships as well. But I've taken a hiatus from relationships at this point in time while I work through my stuff. But with women, like I am in awe and honor. Like most of the women I work with are powerful, have deep medicine in their bones, and like their stories are resonant of my stories, like these deep initiations into sexuality and pleasure and joy. And, I just am blown away that I get to sit and hold space for these women as somebody who is just like there to witness and reflect and hold and help them remember the truth in their own bones, And it's because like I had to do that for myself. I had to do that for myself. I didn't have anyone else around me. Nobody came to save me. I literally had to be my own mother, midwife my own journey, and really hold my inner child's hand safely back into the space of like safety, trust, love, not bracing, not being afraid anymore. And so on the flip side of this, I went through my deeply powerful, spiritual, energetic, disassociate from the body space. And then the missing piece was definitely pleasure and feeling my body and connecting to my body and really grasping at the tissues, the fascia, the tissues, the blood, like the physical vessel of my body, unwinding, releasing, letting go. So I am deep into body work, uh, releasing somatically in the body, because this is the deep belly of my work, especially as somebody who has experienced such hard calcification and trauma in the body in this life and moved through severe bracing and tensing and calcification. This is the juice. And, I flip-flopped. I went from deeply spiritual and then flip-flopped over the other side, went through my whole Christian phase, burnt books, went the other end of the spectrum. I do believe that pendulum swinging, that's just me. That's who I am. That's how I roll. And it's really funny because I was like so witchy. Like my mom raised us very witchy-fied, like very pagan, very one with the earth. And like moving through all of my processes was definitely like earth number one healer for me, especially as somebody who could not really connect intimately with people. Having like an intimate connection with the earth was my chef's kiss. And one of the things, and I find it really interesting too, because when I was at my peak pleasurable experiences, like when I had gotten to this space and I don't know, this oneness essence, this creator essence, this eros, Holy Spirit, like I don't even know what you want to call it what you will. Experience came from being at a space where I was so in touch with my body, so powerfully connected to my body, my orgasm, my pleasure, my aliveness, my joy, and just like moving through my practices. And like this experience cracked me open, and like I feel like I've connected with God in my orgasm and my sexuality. And I went to church, and that was a whole nother experience in and of itself. We'll talk about that another day. But what I was going to say is the thing that didn't sit right with me in that realm and space was the separation of earth and body and pleasure. Something that calls me home as somebody who has been heavily disconnected from my body and heavily disconnected from joy and pleasure and my aliveness and this sense of like joy and wonder in the world. The thing that brought me back was my body, feelings, my sensual aliveness, the earth, like healing. And I just can't get on board with something that's just going to strip me of everything like that, because I do not believe it is anything that is not natural and delicious and human and helps us with our aliveness. I might be trailing off here, but I just wanted to stamp that in to say what got me on this path, what helped me, what was my calling. Oh, my whole life was my calling and my initiation. Moments of visceral, deep, guttural, like experiences that brought me back into my body again and again. And I will sing about this till the day that I die. And I truly believe that that is my gift and my medicine. And that is how I turned my trauma into my wisdom, my gift. And I sit here today as a woman who, don't get me wrong, like I had to go back and reconnect. When I went through my spiritual self, I thought I was too good and disowned, like my little feral rat, like fairy self. And I had to come back and collect that over the last couple of years as this is who I am. It's a part of who I am. And I think that sometimes like that's what we're doing. We're connecting and collecting these fragments of ourselves that we've had to let go and disown and disassociate on our journey of life. And I love that we get to do that and help each other do that. So, don't get me wrong, I'm still a little rebel. I'm still a little firecracker. And again, that also helps me get into this really fiery, passionate place of wanting to shake the foundations that we're sitting on and let it rupture into this like beautiful remembrance throughout the world. And so that's it. That's why I do what I do. Imagine me saying that at a party though. Like it's so funny when people are like, oh, how did you get into that? And like now I can just give them this podcast and be like, well, if you want to know my whole story, my origin story and how I became Sheeana Leigh, here it is. And it's been a reclamation story for sure, because, I hated myself so much deeply at my core. and this is gonna be a little kicker that I'm gonna leave on. I never used to go by my name. I hated my name. I disowned it, and I basically went by my nickname that my brother called me, Charlie, up until I was about 19 or 20. My badges at work, Charlie. Nobody even knew my real name. And I work at clubs. Everyone would just know me as Charlie. The birds and the dogs are going off now. Fabulous. And I basically was like, just Charlie. And I never even reclaimed my name fully as Sheeana Leigh until 5 short years ago. So it's funny too, because guess where my name came from? My uncle. Bum, bum, bum. And so with that, I would love to finalize this call, this little beautiful session on Alchemy with Sheeana Leigh. If you loved this, if you wanted to share your reclamation story, your redemption story, your liberation arc, and your own personal story of alchemy, please feel free to reach out to me on IG, connect with me via website. If you would love to support me in my work and this calling even further, I will share the Buy Me a Coffee link. You can buy me a coffee and submit donations there so that I can keep getting this message out, keep getting this fire out. And yeah, hopefully we start like a ripple throughout the world. That is the idea. Thanks for supporting Alchemy with Sheeana Leigh. The podcast has been such a breeze and going so well. And I look forward to seeing you next time. You can get the Pleasure Codes ebook for free on the link down below as well. And yeah, like, comment, support, bump this up, and I will be speaking to you soon. Cannot wait to have deeper connections around this. Till next time.